Okay. Good evening. I'd like to call to order the May 8th, 2017 Lake Washington School Board meeting. Director LaLiberty is excused this evening for very good reason. You're welcome to quiz him about it when you see him. I'll entertain a motion to approve the May 8th agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Director Bernard, seconded by Director Bleasner. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye.
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 All those opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. So with that, will you please introduce our host school?
I'm very happy to introduce our host school this evening. Our host school is Robert Frost Elementary, and Toby Brenner is the outstanding principal there, and he's here with his team. Not sure who else here, so I'll let you introduce.
All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Pierce. Thank you, Board, for allowing us to host this evening. Hopefully, you'll have a chance to take a peek around the room to see some of the work that our kids and our staff have been doing recently. There's a lot to tell about Robert Frost, and we have a short amount of time, so we're going to dive in. I'm accompanied by my associate principal, Rick Bailey Case, who is new to the Lake Washington School District this year and is doing a phenomenal job. We also have a couple of Frosties hiding away in the audience, and they were hoping I wouldn't say anything, but I am saying something, so you can give a little wave. All right, so I'll dive on in. So at Robert Frost, our values really drive our culture, and our values mirror those of the Lake Washington School District. We really focus on being student-centered, learning-focused, community-connected, and results-oriented. And so this is reflected in our mission. We really have three core components of our mission at Robert Frost that, as a staff, we revised just a few years ago. But really, the three core pieces are, one, we strive to provide a safe and supportive and inclusive environment where every student can learn and achieve to their highest potential. And the third component is we want every student to develop key life skills and apply core values of respect, perseverance, and tolerance. And this really drives everything we do at Frost whenever we work with our kids, when we're working with our families, and when we're working together as a staff. So who are we? At Robert Frost, we're the Roadrunners. Our school opened in 1969. There's a lovely portrait of the school up top that still hangs in our hallway in the office. We have a new, beautiful building that was opened in 2009. Our community, we serve a few different communities. Close to the school is Kingsgate and the High Woodlands communities of North Kirkland, but surrounding our school also are several apartment communities as well, including Ascent, Cedarwood, and the Woodlake Apartments. So we're pretty spread out, and we serve a variety of families. So for our students, our numbers change a lot. So this month we are at 436 students. We have 20 classrooms, K-5, but we also have 2 special education learning centers. One of them is new this year, which is kindergarten only, and that will continue to grow as they move up and we add more students there. Our community is pretty diverse. About a third of our families are non-English speaking. About a quarter of our students receive supports for ELL instruction, and a little over a third of our families qualify for free and reduced meals. As a result, we are one of 4 Title I schools in our district, and that allows us to have additional supports and interventions for our students. Who's our staff? Well, we're not a giant school, but we have a pretty significant staff of over 60 members. Our group is also pretty diverse. We have some brand new people, both to the profession and to the district, and we have some folks who have been teaching for a while. One of our teachers has been teaching in Lake Washington for 45 years, and over half of our teachers have been there for 10 years. I'm not going to ask our 2 out there how long they have been there. It's been more than a couple. And our staff stays, you know. We're not just teachers. Many of us live in the neighborhood, have kids who have gone there, grandparents who have gone there ourselves. Here's a picture from 1979 where second grader Stacy Vogt was in Sharon Gossett's classroom, and they loved it so much they never left. Stacy's now known to her third graders as Mrs. Peterson, and she works just a couple doors down from Mrs. Gossett, who is our Title I facilitator at Frost. So we really at Frost, we care about our community, and we really do see ourselves as lifelong Frosties. So in terms of our mission, I mentioned there's 3 parts. Our first part is that we're community connected. We have a strong PTSA that provides a variety of supports, both in class and also for community events as well. We also have community volunteers who provide a variety of supports for our building. We have a very robust watchdog program. Sometimes it's hard to talk a dad to come into the school, so through watchdogs, we have fathers coming in regularly. We provide them with a backpack full of activities and things to do so they never get bored, and they actually do come back. We also have community art. We have some collage, which you can see over here, and some members sitting at the board table have already given an interest in some of the pieces, but they are not for sale. We do have a community artist, Robert Moreno, who comes in every week because we no longer have an art and science room. It's now a classroom. We actually now have our own potter under the stairs. He has set up shop literally under our stairs where he does his work with our kids every single week. We're also one of just a handful of schools that provides natural leaders. What we found is that while we have a strong group of families who participate in our school and volunteer and feel really connected, we also have families who aren't as connected. And a lot of times, challenges with not knowing the language or cultural differences can make it hard for some families to feel connected and for schools to connect with families. And so Natural Leaders provided us a way to connect with all families and provide leadership for those families and help to create new traditions at our school and really provide some opportunities to bring families not just out from the playground when they're dropping kids off, but into the school. As a result, they've really become a real central part of our school in terms of the events. We just had an international night that they took over, and in a couple weeks we have a Lotteria night, which folks should come out for. Here are some testimonials from families who have participated, and really our goal is to bridge gaps and to make connections between our families and our schools, and I think you can see that we're making pretty good progress with that. We also provide for the needs of our kids outside of what's happening in the classroom. Many of our families come having a variety of needs, and so we're one of 14 schools, elementary schools in the district that provide breakfast. We serve over 35 breakfasts every morning. We also provide pantry packs and other community services for our families to help support them at home. We also added extended day into our school. We're one school where we said, we want it, can we have it, when can we have it? Extended day provides affordable and high quality Lake Washington childcare for our families at our school. And it started as a small thing, and now we have a huge wait list, and Kukumi and Cool Dip in the picture there offer amazing supports for our kids. The second part of our mission is that we really are focused on learning. One way we do that is through continuous collaboration. We have really been focused on professional collaboration using the data team process, which is a 5-step process where we really take time to understand what are the needs of the kids, make short-term goals, check it, have common interventions with our kids, check our data, and adjust continually. We begin each year with that process where we're looking at our larger data to help us decide what are the big picture things we need to do, what needs to be our priority focus, and then throughout the year we maintain a 2-week cycle where our teams are all taking a look at our kids, and we know where everyone's at, and we're making the best changes we can as we go to help every student learn. This year we've really focused on ELA instruction, focusing on comprehension, decoding, research, and inquiry. We really want to make sure that we're targeting reading because that's going to provide the biggest bang across the board, across the curriculum to help us bridge any performance gaps. Right now, our big focus is on common small group instruction and providing strategies for differentiation. We're lifelong learners at Frost, and we really focus on how can we make sure that we're ahead of the curve and we're doing the best things we can, and when we need to tweak, we know where to tweak to. So as a staff, we've done trainings through CORE to help hone our ELA skills. We've also been focusing on data teams training and also on integrating SIOP, which is a way to provide access for all students, for English language learners, as well as all students to help make sure that every student does the best they can every day in their classrooms. We have a number of folks coming into Frost, many of whom in kindergarten are coming in where Frost is the first time where they may have had any schooling experience and may be the first time where they're speaking English. 32 languages are spoken at Frost, predominantly Spanish, but we have a growing number of Portuguese-speaking families from Brazil. Right now, about 26% participate in ELL services. But besides that, we also try to get them going from the start. Every summer, we provide a Jumpstart program, which helps bridge the gap for incoming kindergartners. 2 weeks before school starts, we get them in, and we give them a little head start there. We're also piloting new ELL curriculum at Frost. As a Title I school, we also provide additional things besides supports in class. We also have had a kindergarten intervention safety net class for our students. We have before school classes. We offer a summer school that is just for our Frost kids, where we target those kiddos who need a little extra help, and they come out for half a day in the summer for 5 or 6 weeks, and they really enjoy coming. Even though the idea of coming in summer might be hard, we make it worthwhile. I'm going to turn it over to Rick Bailey-Case for the third part of our mission.
And before I begin, I just want to say thank you to the school board, thank you, Dr. Pierce, thank you to the audience for being here and obviously celebrating and valuing education. I'm happy to be part of the Lake Washington School District, and to have the opportunity to join Frost Elementary has been fabulous because it has a rich history and it's a wonderful community. At Frost, we don't just teach math. We don't just teach literacy, science, or social studies. We also teach life skills, skills such as valuing respect, perseverance, and tolerance. And one of the ways that we do that is by participating in something called PBIS. It stands for Positive Behavior Interventions and Support. It's a research-based process, and the idea of PBIS in a nutshell is to teach expected behaviors rather than expecting specific behaviors from students that haven't been taught. So we do that throughout the school. We have consistent and common school-wide expectations where we deliver the same message, whether that is in the music room, in the hallways, in the classrooms, or outside. Kids get the same common school-wide message of be safe, be kind, show respect. We use data to find out any problem areas that we may have so that we can address them. PBIS is also about acknowledging and rewarding positive behavior. To do that, we have something called Roadrunner Pride. The staff and the students are very excited about it. And what happens is when students are caught doing the right thing, they receive red tickets. I've got a few in my pocket that were handed out. These weren't handed out, but others were. They receive red tickets, and the students are excited about it. They walk through the office doors, and our office manager, Liz Kauhani, and our attendance secretary, Nancy Miller, celebrate them as they walk through. They put that red ticket into their grade level bin, and on Mondays, we pick one red ticket from each grade level bin. We announce their names over the intercom system. Kids come down, they get a certificate, they get a pencil, and they get their picture taken twice. One picture is a group picture that is put on our giant Roadrunner Pride wall. As soon as you walk through the doors of our elementary school, you will see pictures of students there. The other picture, like this one of Elena that you see in front of you, goes home to families the same day that the certificates are handed out. That way, when the students are walking through the door at home or when families see them for the first time, they can celebrate their student success. We don't just honor and celebrate students making good choices. we also honor students that show growth in academics and citizenship at our monthly Spirit Assemblies. Every grade level, every teacher, including our specialists, hand out growth awards for academics and citizenship, and then each grade level team takes turn hosting these Spirit Assemblies. At Robert Frost, we are very strong in the creative arts. We have an amazing music program. The choir is phenomenal. 2 weeks ago, I got to see a musical on Lewis and Clark. And coming up in about a month, there's going to be another musical about the Constitution for 5th grade. We have a talent show on Thursday, starts at 7 o'clock. If you would like to come, I thought I would plug that. And this year, we got to participate in a Disney Musicals in Schools grant. Dr. Pierce, thank you for coming and watching the kids perform The Lion King. It was phenomenal. They put in a lot of work for that. We have an art docent program. We're piloting the Deep Space Sparkle art curriculum. Most of the art that you see around you tonight is from that pilot. And then, as Toby mentioned already, kids do pottery with community artist Robert Moreno. The kids aren't the only ones. Sarah, just tonight, was making a bowl on the pottery wheel. I saw it. Something else we do that's very exciting at Frost is on Spirit Assemblies. At the end of Spirit Assemblies, we do Robert Frost News. If I had a group of students in the audience, they would all be screaming right now, knowing that that's what's coming up next. And just the news team created a special edition just for you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the school board. I'm Ashlyn.
And I'm Alice.
Welcome to a special edition of Frost News.
There are always exciting things happening here at our school, whether we are in a classroom learning, in a lab designing and testing aircraft with engineers.
Working together to create our monthly news episode like this to share at our Spirit Assemblies.
Performing amazing plays like The Lion King and Lewis and Clark.
Singing with teachers during hallway karaoke.
Don't stop believing.
Wow.
I know, I still got it.
Anyway, we have a lot going on here every day.
But instead of us rambling on about it, let's take you in for a behind-the-scene look.
Come on in, let's get started.
Hey, Jacqueline, what do you love about Frost?
Because it's the best school ever.
Why?
Because I love my class.
I like because people show respect on every kids, and when kids are hurt, people help them.
Everyone in the whole school is nice to us, no matter if they are out in horseback. They're nice. I like it because people play with me and they make friends with me.
I like the teachers and how they're all nice to the students at Frost.
What I like about Frost is all the teachers and all the friends that I make, and how fun Frost is. It's just fun to learn from school.
I like Frost because it has good food and good service.
My favorite thing about Frost is the library.
Hola, Kevin.
Hola.
¿Te mudaste a Robert Frost este año? ¿Y cuál es tu cosa favorita de Robert Frost?
Me gusta el PI y me gusta la matemática. Eso es lo que más me gusta de Robert Frost.
Muy bien, ¿es todo? Gracias.
I like about Frost because I like learning how to read.
Wonderful.
That's it for us.
Thank you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed the show.
We would love to share more about our awesome school with you in person.
Come by anytime and visit.
Thank you for visiting our village. We hope you enjoyed our favorite story of the young lion. Under Simba's rule, Delta Melon was restored, and the circle of life continued. Oh, Simbayo, oh, Simbayo, oh, Simbayo, oh, Simbayo, oh, Simbayo. Until we find our place on the path unwinding, it's a circle of
So thank you. Thank you again for hosting. And there is an open invitation. Come on down to Frost. Check us out. Right? Thank you very much.
Toby and Rick, thank you so much for sharing such an outstanding presentation. And you've got an incredible staff and just incredible things happening there. So thanks to the staff members. Do you have any parents who are here tonight?
Nope, not tonight.
Okay,
Just,
that's great. No,
former
we just
parents.
wanted to make sure we recognized everybody who was here from Frost. So thanks so much to you both. Great.
Thank you.
And we're really enjoying the art.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm thrilled to see actual performing arts in a Title I school that are really well attended. That's wonderful. So thank you. All right. So our next item on the agenda is, because we actually have a few people, I'm going to go through the full rigmarole. On a monthly basis, the Board of Directors provides an opportunity for public comment during board meetings. The public comment period is a time reserved during our working meeting for the board to hear from the public. Now, this is not the only opportunity or an avenue for you to communicate with us. As a matter of fact, there are many others, including email, calls, letters, even individual meetings. Please note that this evening is not a question and answer session. This is really a time for you to bring things that are important to our attention. The board and superintendent will not be responding to you directly tonight. Or at best, will be pointing you at the person who you need to talk to. And even that's not a guarantee. But we do want to hear from you, and whatever you say to us, please always do submit your comments in writing as well. It always helps us to be able to refer back to what you think you said to us, as opposed to what we heard you say. And really, this is our opportunity to listen and to learn from you. Typically, we allow a total of 30 minutes on the agenda for public comment. If a number of people sign up to speak on the same topic, we'll usually limit the single topic to 30 minutes. Tonight, we have no such risk of that. So for each speaker, you'll get 3 minutes. When you get up, please come to the microphone in the center. Tell us which attendance area, which elementary school, well, elementary, middle, or high school, or if you don't know, well, you hopefully live in our district, and you'll get 3 minutes. There's a lovely little stoplight over there beyond Director Bernard. After 2 minutes, the green light will turn yellow. That's your indication that you have 1 minute left, at which point you'll try to wrap up. If you're wrap-up challenged, eventually I may ask you to really get to the end. And really, like I said, we will listen to you, but it helps us listen to you if you can condense things and make them 3 minutes long. If it's longer than 3 minutes, send it to us by email. So when your name is called, please do come to the podium, speak to the microphone. I already covered that bit. It's important for everyone to feel welcome and safe during these meetings, and so we don't take public comments by name about personnel. Please don't make such comments unless they're to say they're absolutely wonderful. and individually named staff or personnel. And remember, no matter how fired up you are, we're a part of a community. We try to treat each other with respect. So, with that lengthy preamble out of the way, our first person who signed up to address the board is Carrie Oliver. And the microphone up here is get close to it. Don't actually eat it, but feel free to adjust it to however tall you are.
Luckily, I have a real loud voice all on my own. So thank you.
This is so that the recording can hear you too.
Okay.
Eric's going to tell us that he listened to this, watched it all, but he's got a small person of
Higher
a new
priorities.
type sort. Right, exactly. So, but it is for the recording, not for us on the microphone.
Okay. That's intimidating. Well, hello. My name is Carrie Oliver. I am the mother of 3 boys that have or are still attending Lakeview Elementary, an 8th grader, a 5th grader, and a 3rd grader. I am a past member of the Long-Term Facilities Planning Task Force and a current member of the Lakeview PTSA Board. I come here today to ask you to please work with me and fellow students or fellow parents of Lakeview to do something to alleviate the current growing overcrowding at Lakeview. Over the years, I have watched the slow loss and infringement of the amenities and services offered to our children. This impact has included the loss of the school's computer lab, the loss of playground area to accommodate portables, and most recently, the loss of the school's art room. So what is the impact of this and why does it matter? It has resulted in shortened art lesson time and breadth of art projects. The art room was not designed as a permanent classroom, so the daily experience of those students in that room is not comparable to students in the rooms that were designed adequately. With the loss of the art room, our students have lost a piece of our science curriculum and ability to develop and expand any science at Lakeview for lack of a science/wet lab. And now I understand our resource room is in jeopardy. Students will not receive the same services as they do now if the resource room is lost and those services are moved into a small conference room or planning space. Finally, we have been told that in all likelihood, Lakeview will have 1 to 3 floating classrooms or teachers next year. I am terribly afraid this is going to impact the quality of education and will lead to the loss of many of our current wonderful teaching and building staff, and that is not okay. So, what can be done? On April 21st, I sent a letter to the district suggesting 2 portable locations. One location is large enough to accommodate a 2-room portable. The second location, the lower basketball court, has ample space to accommodate a 4-room portable. No need to remove any parking, and I understand held a portable in the past. Excuse me. Others have also suggested replacing the current single-level portables with stacked portables. I do understand there will be a financial cost associated with this. To this, I would like to know what in total of building impact fees have been collected since 2011, since the last portable was installed at Lakeview. I'm also asking for your help to facilitate a meaningful, thoughtful, thorough discussion of all options available to us and the district to alleviate the impact of the growing student population on the quality of education at Lakeview. I really believe that all the students, both current and future, deserve the same quality of education and amenities my son had at Lakeview from 2008 through 2014. Please help me return those services to these families and students. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I apologize for stepping on your time, so we gave you a few.
You did,
well
and
done.
I appreciate it.
So.
And here is another copy of these.
Great. If you can hand that off to Diane, Diane will make sure we all get a copy of it.
I didn't get a chance to sign up the test.
Okay. Actually, in the interest of sticking with the topic, yes, go ahead. We'll give you another 3 minutes.
Thank
now,
you.
one thing, when you're speaking on the same topic, anything new, add to the story. Don't tell us the same story because we get bored.
Sure. So I'm Joel Ryan. I'm on the PTA with Carrie. And also my daughter is a third grader at Lakeview Elementary School, so I'm here to support what she had just spoken about. I'm primarily here to talk to you about the art room, because my daughter is in the art room, and she's told me multiple times that there's no ventilation. There is sun. Most of the time they're taking spelling tests and other things that are going on. They're having to block their faces because of the amount of sun and heat, and I don't think it's safe for kids to be in that room. That room, of course, should be used as an art room, but currently the space is now a classroom because of the overcrowding that we have. And so it's hot, it's not conducive to learning, and it's been a real problem. The other thing, and I think it could also be a fire hazard too. I mean, it's not meant to be a classroom, for sure. So I'd have quick 4 recommendations for you guys to think about. Of course, fixing the art room, bringing in some fans. There has to be windows that actually open. This is a classroom that doesn't have windows that can actually be open. There's no shade, so that's something. Those are some easy things to fix. I agree with Carrie around portables. I think that could be a temporary solution to add some portables in. The third thing I wanted to touch on briefly, and I know that you're not necessarily involved with it yet, is that there's a lot of talk about a redevelopment project right near Lakeview Elementary. We're really concerned about the density. The school is overcrowded as it is, and we don't need additional overcrowding. So there's a lot of discussion about adding in a lot of housing, a lot of, essentially from what my perspective is, adding a mall into a school. And our tiny Lakeview Elementary School can't handle that. It's not safe for kids in terms of traffic. The school is already overcrowded. And then finally, in terms of overcrowded, eventually there'll be a new bond and levy measure that comes forward. Really work with parents in the community. As sitting on the PTA, I've talked to a lot of parents about some of their concerns about what dollars are currently being used for and what they're not being used for. If you're trying to build support for additional dollars to make larger buildings, to add another floor to Lakeview, it's going to be really important that you engage a lot of the parents. There's quite a few parents here actually from Lakeview, but parents across our district who have a lot of concerns even about how dollars are being spent right now. So again, I thank you for your time. Thanks for all your work. It's a great school, as you all know. I know you know how great Lakeview is, but like a lot of schools in the district, it's overcrowded, and the kind of makeshift things that we're doing to get by are not safe for kids. And so we need to figure out some temporary solutions to make more room that's safe and that will work for kids. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much. Okay, that's the last that we had on that topic. So with that, Veronique Harris. There we go.
Good evening. My name is Veronique Harris, and I'm a sophomore at Lake Washington High School. I want to address a serious problem at LW, which often does not get addressed: racial inequality. As a student of color in a predominantly white environment, I feel that our school should go the extra mile to make sure their students of color feel welcome, but so far I have not seen any real action or attempt. Only recently has a diversity board been created. We had our first meeting today. However, it was a few years too late. The damage was already done. The fact of the matter is that students of color do not feel safe at Lake Washington High School. Every day I walk down the hall, I hear offensive slurs, see Confederate flags on backpacks, and even students hailing Hitler. Teachers often tell students of color we aren't good enough, or we probably can't go to certain colleges because we aren't smart enough. Just the other day, my math teacher pulled me aside and asked why I was taking AP Calc next year, and questioned if it was the right decision for me. As I have maintained a 4.0 GPA since 6th grade, and I'm enrolled in all of the highest classes I could possibly be in as a sophomore, my ability couldn't have been the problem she had with me taking this class. At a football game, a teacher made me open up my jacket in the pouring rain to prove to her that I wasn't trying to smuggle anything into the game. It was an umbrella. I could be wearing the same exact outfit as a white student, and yet I or any other girl of color would be the one to get dress coded. This happens on a daily basis. Teachers also discourage us from demonstrations we hold at school, making us feel like our opinion is irrelevant. The ACLU contacted LW just this year to remind admin that it is against the Constitution for teachers to call their students communists for not standing during the pledge, or tell us that it is against the law to sit during the pledge. Resource officers that are supposed to make us feel safe at school only make us feel uncomfortable, because in every situation I have witnessed involving a resource officer, it has been biased against students of color. If you look up disciplinary trends of Lake Washington High School, you will find that Latino students are targeted most often, clearly disproportionate since we go to a predominantly white school. Now, you may ask if we have reported these things to admin before, and the answer is yes, on many occasions, in fact. As my friend who couldn't make it tonight asked me to say, we don't feel safe at this school because when we have reported issues of racism to admin and to teachers and to counselors, they always say they will get back to us, and they don't. If they did, it was too late and we were already emotionally scarred and hurt, end quote. So I would strongly encourage the school board to take a look into this further, as the safety of your students of color is on the line. Show us that Black and brown lives do matter. High school shouldn't just be enjoyable for white students. Thank you.
So I don't think we're quite done with this topic. Kaylin, are you also, Kaylin Hamilton? Yeah, please.
Good afternoon. Hi, my name is Kaylin Hamilton. I'm an 11th grader at Lake Washington High School. Over the last several years at LDUB, I have witnessed numerous times in which diversity, racism, and discrimination have been an issue. It is very easy for those who do not experience these occurrences to say they do not exist, but unfortunately they do. When you come into LDUB or any school, you want to leave with the impression that you are welcome. But over the last few months, it has been apparent to numerous students that the acceptance in which we look for from staff and admin is not given, thus decreasing our ability to perform successfully, which then alters our academic outcomes. It has been voiced by several students, including myself, that we do not feel welcome in their classroom halls or even talking to our own teachers due to the feeling of being judged and discriminated against. We are all aware that students of color is not the biggest group at LDUB, but in no way is this an excuse to treat us unfairly. Minority students are constantly being called ignorant names and being treated differently because, especially by admin. And it must stop. While you might say it is just a normal case of high school bullying, keep in mind that no person should have to face discrimination and cruelty due to sexual orientation, race, gender, ethnicity, etc. Also keep in mind that if these occurrences were happening to your white children or family members, you would advocate for change immediately as well. So instead of administration teaching us racism and what it is to be unaccepting of our peers, why don't you teach us to be open-minded and accepting of everyone's differences?
So it takes a tremendous amount of courage for a student to address a school board, so we're going to break protocol briefly. All you adults in the audience, don't expect us to respond to you, but we're going to let Dr. Pierce talk to you guys for a couple minutes.
I just want to echo Director Carlson's words about the courage it takes to come and present, and to let you know that we hear you and appreciate hearing your perspective. And you mentioned some work that's happening at the school, and we've got some work happening at the district level as well. Just in terms of, for example, we've had some student focus groups recently, and I'm not sure who maybe at the school participated or had the opportunity to participate. So we could get from all of our high schools, comprehensive high schools, some student voice into our equity work. And so some of there's a lot I could talk about in terms of what we're looking at in terms of our data as a district and in terms of our policy. What I really just want to make sure that you come away with is that your voice is important. We care about your perspective and experiences, and we will follow up. I know there's already some things happening at the school level. We've got a lot happening at the district level. We've got lots of people in the system who care deeply about students and their experience, and your sharing is helpful and important, and without getting into a whole bunch of detail, we'll be following up with the school administration and helping with the situation, because obviously what we want is every student to feel welcome, included, connected, valued, challenged, and so if that's not happening even for one student in the system, we care about that.
Yes, I can say on behalf of the board that we take this very seriously. So thank you for bringing it to us. Okay, so wait a minute. Sorry, did I cut you off in the middle of this? We might actually have two more. Debbie Lacey.
Good evening. I am Debbie Lacey. I live in Kirkland, and I have a son at A.G. Bell. I'm the co-founder and director of the Eastside Refugee and Immigrant Coalition, otherwise known as ERIC. We've been around for the past 15 years. We encourage all parts of the community to do what they can to foster safe and welcoming environments, and we know the Lake Washington District has been committed to this for a long time, as have other parts of the community. But there are things happening now that require all of us to step up our efforts. Our cities are stepping up to look closely at ways they can better support the community. Police departments are reaching out in new ways. Community organizations are hosting new events and providing new services. We're asking the district to step up in new ways as well. Youth counselors are reporting that bias-motivated incidents of harassment and bullying are happening in our schools. And although this isn't something new, the current political climate has intensified the experiences many students are having both directly and vicariously. Policies both reflect a community's culture and help shape the culture. So we ask that you update your policies to both reflect the reality that hate crimes are a possibility in schools and that you're prepared to appropriately respond to incidents that may occur. The harassment, intimidation, and bullying of students policy doesn't include specific language about civil rights violations, bias-motivated behavior, or hate crimes. We'd like to see you specifically call out these terms and define them. It's important to include so that not only do we know that you know hate crimes and bias-motivated acts are distinct from other types of unacceptable conduct, but that you send a clear message to students, parents, and staff that these acts are a serious category of behavior and that there are serious consequences. When hate crimes and bias-motivated bullying take place, there's the hurt inflicted upon the direct victim, but there's also the victimization of every other student who belongs to the same group. Additionally, the reporting and complaint process outlined in your policies is incredibly difficult to understand. It needs to be much clearer to ensure that students know their rights and the proper procedure to follow when they're victimized. Many schools throughout our country have incorporated important teachings about hate crimes and bias-motivated behavior into their existing anti-bullying curriculum to better protect students. We see evidence in the community that our students need this as well. We'd like to see the district explore ways to incorporate hate prevention and awareness as part of your efforts to create a safe and equitable learning environment for all students. We wanted you to know that several people are here from the community in support of these requests, and if they could all please stand. ERIC is a resource, and we want to help. There are examples of hate prevention policies and curriculum models we can share. Dr. Pierce, I hope I can follow up with you to see how we can offer support or to someone else in your administration. Thank you for listening and for your leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. And Paula White.
Hi, thank you. My name is Paula White, and I'm representing Kirkland Safe. Kirkland Safe is a group of local community members that are dedicated to creating a community that is safe, welcoming, and inclusive for all that live, work, and reside in Kirkland. Amy Wallen, the mayor of Kirkland, signed a proclamation on January 3rd, 2017 that upholds these values. The other council members signed several weeks later. On the LWSD website, you invite community members to support the school district in a variety of ways. That is why we, as Kirkland Safe members, are here to let you, the board, administrators, and students know that we as a community stand with you as we lend our voice to create a safe, welcoming, and inclusive school environment so that all of our students feel safe enough to reach their full potential. I'd like to share a story that illustrates how difficult it can be to talk about something that deeply affects you. I commend our student speakers first, Kaylin and Veronique, for having the courage to stand up and tell your story. Last year, both of our kids were home visiting from college. We were sitting around the dinner table, and my daughter said to her brother, "Hey, Gabe, let's tell Mom and Dad what happened to us at Kirkland Junior High." This was 8 years ago when KMS was KJH. They both then told my husband and I stories about how they were ridiculed and teased for being Jewish. There was a period of time when they were taking the school bus that kids would throw money at them while telling Jewish jokes. They were teased for having big Jewish noses, and they both said that there was a lot of negative stereotyping about Jewish people. It wasn't always directed at them, but it was out there for them to hear. I mention this story because my kids were too afraid to tell us at the time that it was happening. They were afraid of what would happen to them. They were afraid that they were not going to be believed. They were afraid that other kids would gang up on them. For all the stories that we are hearing about incidences of hate, bigotry, and racism, I can assure you that there is so much more going on that we are not hearing about. I urge you as a school board to be proactive, to help our administrators and staff create an atmosphere of safety and trust by having systems in place where difficult conversations can take place. It is up to the adults to model challenging conversation. It is up to us to create a safe space where there won't be ridicule for being who we were born to be. It is really up to us. Thank you.
Thank you. So, thank you. Diane. I have nothing to say other than I'm mildly appalled that you have to come to us. Actually, I'm severely appalled. But I can tell you that, and for once in my life, we're actually ahead of you. If you'll go back, we're going to have to find it in the records. It's no more than a month ago that we had a resolution about a proclamation from the board for the district about an equitable and inclusive environment that is very much the language that you're talking about in terms of a safe place for everybody to be what they are. And we, at the time, I have to admit, I thought, gosh, isn't this self-obvious? But it may not be obvious to everyone. I just want you to know that we are already there. And when it comes to changes in policy, we'll see what needs to be tweaked rather than what needs to be enforced. This is an important issue to us, and I don't want to diminish it in any way. So thank you so much for bringing it to us. With that, we have our and actually, after we have the public comment, we're going to have a couple more hours of meeting after this. You don't actually have to sit in the audience. We'll usually take a 5-minute break for everybody to exit the building. Well, during that 5 minutes, for those of you who need to connect,
Sorry, they're giving me a note.
That's all right. Yeah, exactly. We're going to take our 5 after the public comment so we can do a little bit of interaction. It's not going to be a full-scale meeting, but to at least make contacts and set up lines of communication for you to set up further meetings and point you at the right people. All right, so with that, our last person who signed up to speak, I'm sorry, I didn't think you weren't in the middle of anything, but it's always a pleasure to hear from Margaret Adams.
Good. I hope you think dyslexia when you see me.
I don't think, that's not the only thing I think.
So, my name is Margaret Adams, and my son's at Juanita High School, and I'm here to talk on 2 things. One's very specific to dyslexia, and that is to encourage that the dyslexia policy be put in place, published, whatever. A couple weeks ago, Paul Vine said that it was in cabinet approval process, and I don't know what that means, and this all relates back to the U.S. Department of Education's Dear Colleague Guidance on Dyslexia letter that came out a couple years ago. I forwarded it in December of 2015, met with John Holman and Paul Vine in February of 2016, at which point we all agreed that using the terms dyslexia, dyscalculia, and dysgraphia would be fine. And pretty much, well, anyway, I'm looking forward to this policy because I don't know what it is, and I think it would help the families to have that. There are pockets of areas always existing. So, and that Dear Colleague letter, they basically said the purpose of this letter is to clarify that there is nothing in the IDEA that would prohibit the use of the terms dyslexia, which is the reading portion, dyscalculia, which is the math portion, and dysgraphia, which is the writing portion, in IDEA evaluation eligibility determinations or IEP documents. So again, I'm looking forward to whenever this policy could come out, please. So my second item has to do with the PSAT, and the reason that I wanted to bring this up is because the PSAT happens every single year, but it looks like it's still not smooth, and I'd really like somebody to own it and make it smoother. And by that, I mean the district offers for free to all sophomores the PSAT, but it's not accessible, I guess is the word that I would use, because families that are new to the IEP and 504, their firstborn, or maybe their only child, don't understand the accommodation process. So 4 years ago, they didn't even get a letter because there was a slip up, but they do get one letter, but that's one communication. If they don't understand that communication, they miss their chance to get the accommodations. And then last fall, I learned that even a family that got the accommodations, the student didn't get the accommodations until the test stopped for everybody, and the student was told to stop. And the student said, but I have extra time, and then got the parent involved, and it took maybe another hour before the student was given the extra time, but you can imagine that they probably didn't do their best on that PSAT. So let's give everybody the best chance possible. It does happen every single year, and I'm hoping that the district could set up procedures to make it go smoothly every single year. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you so much. And yes, as the PSAT is the first standardized test that's administered, kids are going on to take APs or anything else where they're going to have accommodations. Learning that they have accommodations and how to get them on the PSAT is a very valuable thing, so thank you. All right, so with that, we'll take a break until 8:05, and my board members were sending me notes that they'd like to hobnob with the group, so feel free to stick around and bend our ears, but at 8:05 we're going to resume the business meeting. Sorry, I'm being very rude. Is there anybody else who didn't sign up and needs to speak to us? Okay, hearing none, we'll close public comment and we'll take a 5-minute recess. Let's get our cameras going. Oh, there we are. And we're back. So, consent agenda. I'll now entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Director Bernard, seconded by Director Bleasner. Tracy, can you please poll the board?
Nancy?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Siri?
Yes.
All right, and per usual, Tracy, will you please review the donations?
I am happy to. If you turn to tab 11, this evening we have $59,216 worth of donations. A $2,485 donation from Ben Franklin PTSA to Franklin Elementary to purchase 2A radios, $10,353 from the Lakeview Elementary PTSA to Lakeview Elementary to provide stipends for homework and STEM club and to support field trips. $4,490 from the Horace Mann PTSA to Horace Mann Elementary to provide a stipend for safety patrol and to support extracurricular activities. $2,483 from Tabitha Roach to Horace Mann Elementary to purchase library books. $2,625 from Rosa Parks PTSA to Rosa Parks to support field trips. $3,348 from Finn Hill Middle School PTSA to Finn Hill Middle to provide stipends for extracurricular activities. $10,432 from International Community School PTSA to ICS to purchase classroom supplies, musical instruments, and to support classroom enrichment. $8,000 from the Kang Gridiron Club to Lake Washington High School to purchase football helmets and weight room supplies. And finally, a $15,000 donation from the Tesla STEM PTSA to Tesla STEM to support classroom enrichment. So all total tonight, $59,216.
As always, I'm blown away by the support that our public give our district. We do truly appreciate the generosity of our parents, of our community, and of our businesses, and the foundation. So, the first item now onto the non-consent agenda. The first item on the non-consent agenda is district textbook adoption.
Great. So I'm pleased to welcome Director of Teaching and Learning Mike Van Orden and a team forward to present to you the K-5 Visual Arts Program Review Committee work and recommended adoption. So the recommendation this evening is for the board to approve the recommendation from the K-5 Visual Arts Program Review Committee and move forward with the Instructional Materials Committee adopting the materials for use in the district. So with that, we are getting the presentation queued up, and we have it on our screen. Okay. Do you have the two rooms combined? You've got a...
We can see your presentation as long as you don't mind doing it blind.
Okay. Welcome, Mike. Thank you for being here. I know you'll introduce your team as we go along, so I will hand it over to you.
Well, thank you, and I'm pleased to be here tonight to share a recommendation for visual arts in our elementary schools, and particularly this being Arts Education Month in Washington State, very timely. What I want to do tonight is walk you through our process for our recommendation, which in many ways is very similar and parallel to recommendations we make when we do we've done recent adoptions, but there have been some unique characteristics of this process that I want to walk you through tonight. And then we're going to have our presenters, which includes teachers and administrators and a docent from our committee, sharing some of the qualities of the program we're really excited about. And we'll wrap up tonight with some partnerships, because we have wonderful art docent programs in our district, and so we want to talk about how we've connected the curriculum initiative as well together with our art docent work. And then finally, we'll wrap up with next steps. So as you know, we presented recently, Culture in the Arts is part of our student profile and part of our interdisciplinary content knowledge. And so as we've been working through our recommendation work, we've kept this at the forefront, knowing that we want our kids to understand and apply concepts of not only design and music and literature, but visual arts, dance, and drama. And we focus particularly on visual arts for this recommendation. So as I mentioned, in many ways very similar to other adoption processes. However, when we started this adoption, we started not with the assumption that we were necessarily going to have new materials. You may know, if you've been around for a while, back in 2003 we partnered with the Redmond Arts Commission to develop a curriculum. Lake Washington teachers, administrators, and artists from our community developed a really wonderful curriculum that at the time was aligned with standards, and we started with that, thinking there might be something there that we could work with or refine. And so we spent a year looking at that as well as what was done in other districts, and recognized that we probably did need to look at other curriculum programs. And so we evaluated programs, and that is back kind of more to our traditional adoption process, and piloted those in classes. Again, though, different than other programs, we don't have social studies docents or math docents. We have wonderful art docents, and we recognized as we were looking at what happens in our district and what occurs in our district that partnership was essential for any art curriculum that we implemented at the elementary level. So that started in 2015-16. And then based on that work, we found one program that was very promising. And again, unlike other programs, we decided that we needed some more time to really vet it. And so this year we've been trying it in classrooms, making sure that the materials works, the logistics work, is really taken care of before we felt confident with our recommendations. So this year, where we may have implemented district-wide and had every teacher using the curriculum, we said we needed some more time to really vet this. And so we did that work, and just recently submitted to IMC and the board. And we are continuing that work with partnerships. So what I'll do next is just walk you through a little bit of the details of this, and then we'll turn it over to our presenters. I want to take a moment to acknowledge and thank sincerely the members who have served on our committee over the past 2.5 years. It's an amazing group of teachers and administrators and community members that have represented their colleagues in our district really well. They have come to this work with lots of perspectives about what visual arts is and can be, and have come to a recommendation we feel really meets the needs of the people in our district. Some of them are here tonight, and you'll hear from them. We've had teachers at all elementary, different grade levels, as well as a teacher representative on our committee from the middle school to keep that continue in mind. And then I can't thank enough our docents who have been on our committee from the start, giving us guidance. They have a depth of expertise and knowledge that is just phenomenal, and they've helped to really kind of move our work along and keep us focused on the right things. And so, again, I want to acknowledge the people up there, and you'll hear from some of them tonight. We have had, since the beginning, some guiding interests or principles that have focused our work, and I want to share these because you should see these reflected in our recommendation. We have wonderful art docent programs in all of our schools, and we have teachers who have been teaching art. But we, as we did our studies, recognized that there were places where visual arts instruction wasn't happening. And so we started with the idea that every student in the district, regardless of who they are, where they are, what school they attend, should have art experiences. And it wasn't to say that we were lowering the bar. We were making sure that there was a floor to start from and then building upon that. We also recognize that there are art standards, and we have a reporting requirement for arts, and so art requires instruction. Art's a skill that's taught. It's not simply something you put in front of kids. And so knowing that, we recognize that this has to be something our teachers are connected to. It wasn't simply our docent programs are doing everything we need. Our docent programs are wonderful, and they serve a purpose, and we should have an art curriculum. And we also recognize that we've talked about many times in adoption work and other work here that elementary, we expect a lot from elementary in terms of time and expertise. And so we had to find a recommendation that addressed not only the time constraints, but teachers' capacity for learning, and recognizing that docent programs were occurring in our schools, and we wanted to maintain that. So this was all factored in as we were working through our recommendation. So the first year of the review, as I mentioned, we did a pretty deep analysis of what exists in our district as well as other districts, and we looked at what our community and parent and teacher interests were, and recognized that we needed an art program, and what we had in place really wasn't meeting our needs at the time. We had changed. We have new standards that the curriculum had not been written for. Some of the ways that the curriculum was taught from 2003 just didn't meet our needs, and there was still a strong interest. So based on that work, we decided to look at, like we do with other curriculum adoptions programs that were out there. And there was a wide range of these. Some of these were very text-based, that were rich and lots of lessons, similar to maybe what you would see in a secondary. Some of these are from publishers that also produce some of the curriculum that some of our docent programs use, and then there was a whole range in the middle. So as with all of our curriculum adoptions, we do a pretty rigorous review, looking at how well the programs align with effective practice, standards, which we knew were going to be changing, and were just recently adopted in 2017. And I want to take a moment to acknowledge Karen Ola-Renshaw, one of our specialists who's really been a driver behind our arts work, and was kind of in contact with OSPI and read the writing on the wall that new standards were coming, and got our committee kind of up to speed on what those would be, so we weren't using old standards for curriculum that was coming out. And then we look at organization and design and digital resources as well. So based on that review, we ended up with 4 programs that we piloted in classrooms last year. And as you can imagine, piloting art programs is an adventure. Kids are painting and drawing and making messes and producing and creating really wonderful things. And so we asked for feedback following those. We had 70 teachers that were trying those lessons, and we surveyed them about the usability and the materials and how much time things took. We also got responses from over 2,000 of our students, what kinds of experiences they had, what they learned from them. And we asked parents of students that were participating, as well as parent docents in focus groups, what they thought of the different programs. So lots of feedback that we used in addition to those rubric analyses to get to a program that we were going, this seems to be doing what we want to do. And that program's called Deep Space Sparkle Art School for Kids. And just to head off the question that you may have at the end of the evening, Deep Space Sparkle is the color of a crayon from Crayola. So we ended up recommending that program, but recognizing through our pilot process there were still lots of questions. And typically, after we do a year of piloting, we say, okay, we're ready to make a recommendation, and we come in May or June. But knowing that there were still questions about managing materials, and if you've ever seen, for example, our docent programs, you know how complex that is. And then things like the sequence of the lessons and the projects that we had that were in the programs, and just how everything fit together, we still had questions. And so this year, we have 11 schools, and Frost, who presented tonight, was one of those schools, and you'll see some of the work from them. And also teachers who wanted to try the lessons and give us feedback to gather that information and really make sure that this was the right program, because if there were problems with materials, if teachers couldn't deliver the art lessons, we could think it was a great program, but it wouldn't be used. And a good program that's not used is not a good program, right? So we've been getting feedback all year on this, and we've been hearing wonderful things. So, for example, our teachers are telling us the things that we were most worried about. For example, they were saying, I can pick up this curriculum and use it. There are training materials and videos I can use in this program that really help me to deliver it. And I was worried about art, but I'm doing art and I'm successful. And I'll share a story with you at the end of the night about that. We asked our kids, and they were telling us things that were really exciting to us. They were talking about the creative process. They were talking about the skills of art. They were talking about learning art and it being more than simply just doing something for the sake of doing it, but the skills that they were picking up. And we asked our parents and docents, and they're in the classrooms, and in many cases have a level of expertise that we tried to tap into. And they were saying, you know what, we know art, and your teachers are doing it, and it's looking good. We're hearing good things. We're seeing good things about art. And so we were really heartened by hearing these types of feedback. Now, this isn't to say there aren't things that we still have to work out, but on the whole, when we were thinking, okay, we're going to ask elementary teachers to do art, and we were expecting lots of challenges, we're finding that we are finding some ways to work through those, and we're feeling like this is the program after that more extensive review. We've also had just normal communication that goes out, as with all of our adoptions. We've been keeping the community up to speed on our progress over the past 3 years. So again, normally we do this in 2. And we did have the materials on review, as we've done with all of our adoptions. I think because we've had so many focus groups, we've had at least 2 PTSA and parent focus groups each year where we've invited people here to look at our curriculum and give us feedback. That again, I think this method of collecting feedback just hasn't seemed to be necessary, but we have made sure it's out as in policy. So with that, I want to take a little bit of time to have our committee members share some of the qualities of the program that we're recommending so that you can see maybe some of the things I was mentioning in terms of the challenges of teaching art in the elementary and how we're addressing those. And then we have some time to talk about next steps and answer questions at the end. So we're going to start with Heather Hine, who's a 4th grade teacher at Rockwell Elementary.
Hi there. I am Heather Hine. I've been on the Visual Arts Committee. I apologize in advance for my laryngitis that I brought to you this evening. But I've been on the Visual Arts Committee since 2014. I'm also an elementary teacher, 4th grade at Rockwell, and I'm one of the piloting teachers for the program. Okay, so I wanted to start here and show you this. You may recognize that. That's the well-known turkey hand. Now, as a parent, I need to tell you there's nothing wrong with the turkey hand, and I've enjoyed having them on my refrigerator over the years. But there's a distinction between the turkey hand kind of project, which is really a craft project, and a thorough grounding in the visual arts. And in contrast, Deep Space Sparkle allows students to gain experience in the visual arts, and there's an example from, I believe, a 2nd grade classroom. Deep Space Sparkle is aligned to our national standards, which are in turn our new state standards. And one way to think about these is there are 4 basic strands in terms of teaching visual arts to kids. There's the creating phase where you're doing the plan and thinking of what you're going to do. There's the actual skill set and the production of art, how you do it, the line, the shadow, whatever it is. There's learning how to respond to art, both the art that you produce, that your peers produce, and also responding to artwork that you see created by artists out in the world. And then there's that connection strand, and the visual arts is a great avenue for this, making connections to literacy and math and science and all those other academic disciplines. So the Deep Space Sparkle curriculum, every classroom gets 6 projects each year. And I can tell you as a piloting teacher, the program itself is very flexible, and it's very easy to pick up and use. So teachers with different levels of art experience can feel successful using it. There's a video delivery format if teachers choose to use that. They don't have to, but that is a good way to try things out. I have used that, and sometimes I am actually drawing along with the students and making mistakes along with the students and also modeling that. I didn't intend that toucan foot to be right there, but maybe I can turn that into a branch so that I can be modeling those things too. The books also, the lessons also come with occasional picture books to supplement the artwork, and teachers also have flexibility in using those. The other thing that the curriculum provides is there are some finished student samples so that even from the outset we can see what some third grade projects might look like. Now, once we get it underway, then we actually have our student projects to use. But it is very flexible and it's very teacher friendly. The last thing I wanted to let you know is it's meant to be a coherent curriculum. The idea is that a grounding in the arts develops over time, that there are skills we expect a kindergartner to have, and those in turn become the skills a primary student has, and then an intermediate student has, and by the time they reach middle school, they now have a skill set, and they develop over time. The other thing is that we want those projects to enhance what our art docents are already doing. So when, if students are developing their skills with Deep Space Sparkle, they in turn bring those skills to the art docent program as well. So, and I'll turn things over to Sarah Hall.
Hello, I'm Sarah Hall, and I teach art at Redmond Middle School, and I've been there for 13 years, and I also served on the curriculum committee for the secondary art adoption we did several years ago. And I have to say I'm very passionate about getting art into elementary schools for all kids, because it really will help create that coherent program K through 12. And as Heather was alluding to, really gives the kids the foundation building blocks that they need. So the skill set in using the materials, experience with the different materials. You guys can see around here all the different, from mixed media to paint to oil pastels, and making sure that every kid in every school has that same experience and knowledge that really helps as a middle school teacher, knowing that my kids come in having had all of that information. They've got that, they all have the same building block upon which then I can delve even deeper and get even more rigorous with the curriculum. So it's not just the materials they're using, but a lot of it is also our vocabulary that's really important. And the elements of art is probably kind of the basis that we use for a lot of our projects. And the visual in here is actually the poster developed by the district, which is great, that's in schools now. And it's been hard in the past where I've got some kids that have experience and understand what these terms mean. What is texture? What is color? What does that look like? And other kids that haven't experienced it before. So having all the kids really have that knowledge of what these terms mean and knowing how to talk about in their art and how to experience it visually. It's very different to just know a definition for a word, but to actually kind of be able to live and breathe it through all the projects they get to do with Deep Space Sparkle and with the docent program is really important. And it's here. I've got another picture here where you can see another example of students pulling all of these things together. So this is a Matisse shape lesson from second grade. And yes, they're using shapes, but they're also using all these other elements of art together. So there's line and texture and color. So it's wonderful for the kids to experience this all together. So I really like this as a secondary teacher and think that this would be a great foundation for all kids to have. Next up is Ryan Scott.
Hi, so I'm the associate principal at Rockwell and Franklin. I had the great privilege to be a teacher and work on the art committee and pilot and all the other lessons, as well as deliver some Deep Space Sparkle lessons. And now I'm on the other end of that and encouraging teachers to do that. So both Franklin and Rockwell have been piloting these. And so just a couple things to consider as we look through K-5, 6 different slides of the art. First of all, Deep Space Sparkle does focus a lot on drawing skills. And as you look around the room, you'll see that even if they're doing mixed media or painting, there's still the initial element of drawing. And it's actually, I think, a strength of the curriculum because it really gives kids a confidence in their drawing ability. So kind of keep that in mind, the gradual shift in how they're drawing these 6 slides. And also, one thing that we were initially as a curriculum development or a curriculum team looking at is Patty, who's the person on the video, gives you a step-by-step drawing. We think, are we just going to see a classroom full of the same exact artwork? And again, looking around the room, you see that it's not the case. And when you see these next slides, you'll see it's not the case. That just, even within that same stock lesson, kids just are inherently seeing the variability. So here we have some kindergarten birds, and that's a mixed media piece. And the book there is actually a reference book. The next art pieces all come with the mentor art text that go along with that. These are first graders doing a still life that I would be proud of myself with the Cezanne mentor text. The blue dog, based on why is dog blue, blue dog blue? And again, clearly it's all the same art lesson, but you can see 8 distinct projects that the second graders did. And a pretty good shift in the drawing skills of these third graders with another art mentor text, Jacques Cousteau. Castles of the World, fourth graders again, a dragon in the background, a little fish in the corner of the other one. So there's just so many places for the personal touch of these art lessons. And then finally, fifth graders doing some mixed media painted tunics with that art mentor text as well. And I'll turn it over to Heather Frazier.
When I saw I was being assigned this picture, I was really disappointed because that's the storage closet. But what's exciting is that we already had the visual arts sort of alive at Sandburg. We had art docent program. And so when this pilot came about, we're all in. We really just had a few questions for ourselves. One was, should we? We thought, well, clearly, if we're here to inspire, support, and teach our children, and this is a part of a balanced education, then yes, we will be doing that. And then it was, but can I? And that came down to teachers not all being passionate and comfortable in teaching the visual arts. And so those people who were most uncomfortable volunteered. Said, we might as well find out right now how this is going to play out. And then we looked at how are we going to do this? So we drew on those fabulous volunteers, and one of the concerns was time. And that's always a concern, and we looked at that when we looked at the different curriculum. Can we really get this done in half an hour, or is it really an hour? And then the preparation, oh my gosh, we're already working all night. So we have a volunteer who, for our first year and a half now, has prepared all of the lessons. So the calendar, teachers go and sign up on the calendar. We have the reference materials right there when they were still learning. Now they're old hat. And then the materials were set up, and that prep was done, and they would just have a bin delivered into their box, and they were ready to go. So pretty awesome. And then we thought about, we're doing pretty well, but we want to celebrate. And so what has come from this is now a whole community drawn together around the visual arts. And we end every year now the tradition of having an art walk and a community, there's something fancy about this. When you build the project and we all come together, installation, a community art installation. So we come together and do that. And last year it was featuring some Italian chalk painting like sidewalk work. It was so much fun. And this year, don't tell them yet. The kids know, but they're making a mural, and we're going to weave fabric into our chain link fence. So then everybody else can contribute as they come. So that'll be a week's worth of fun celebration. And then 2 seconds, right? All right, just today, just before I came here, our art docent got a little bit of feedback about how wonderful the work is that she's doing and how it complements the Deep Space Sparkle we're using. And students in preparation for this art walk wrote some of their feelings about the work that they have chosen from their portfolio to share. So I promise I'll just read one. We'll read Sydney. So Sydney chose her jungle art piece. She thinks it is a good example of color choice, shape, and line. She thinks that the color blending matches the piece. She's inspired by everything around her, and she loves Henry Rousseau's art. She wants you to feel warm and like you're in the jungle looking at her piece. So if you want that and many more, join us on Thursday, May 18th in the evening, and you'll be able to see lots of art. Thanks.
Oh, they're giving me technical things to do. Not a good combination. I'm Diva Demeter, and I am a parent in the learning community. I have 2 students at Redmond High School, but I have been an integral part of the Einstein art docent program now for 12 years. So I started off as a kindergarten parent doing that when there had been a lapse. There was a time when there was no art docent program at Einstein, and so someone came up to me and said, "This is really easy to do. Everything is provided for you." It was all lies. So I ended up creating a program from scratch, which I was so passionate about that I've had a hard time leaving. So even though my kids are on at the high school, I have continued on as an art docent there. We have talked about our Deep Space Sparkle curriculum. You've seen some of the art lessons. We are very fortunate that we have so many great art docent programs in our district, volunteers like myself and others who are willing to give up their time. And as Mike said, this is a unique curriculum because we don't have math docents coming in and teaching or social studies. This is all driven by volunteers, though. Our art curriculum 100% is volunteers coming in. And we do have teachers that are passionate. Karen Olrenshaw, who is my daughter's teacher, was a teacher that brought art into the classroom and did regular instruction, but that's not a consistent thing that's happening. So the great thing about Deep Space Sparkle is it is a partnership. We will still have our art docent lessons and our strong art docent programs, and they will be really working together with the lessons that are provided by the teachers. The other thing, too, is that with this program, everyone, as Sarah said, will get that foundation in the arts. We do have some great art docent programs, and we also have a couple schools that have no art docent programs. And we have some that have been great, and then because of parents like myself moving on, they may have dwindled or even fallen away. And within classroom to classroom, you have some art docents who are amazing, who are artists themselves, very passionate, and you have others who are reluctant to do art docent. It's just because there isn't someone else to step up and do it. Some of you may have even been in that situation where you're like, oh, I guess I'll do it. And then you get in the situation that one of our board members had said that you get a Hot Mess Express art docent teacher that year, which unfortunately does happen too. It doesn't mean that people aren't passionate about bringing the lessons, they just might not have the skill set. So that's why it's really important that this is delivered by teachers, but then also supported by your art docents. So you might get different projects, but they definitely will work together. And then the last part of this is that the lessons being taught by teachers can be assisted by the art docents or other volunteers in the classroom. You have the teaching and the classroom management strength of the teachers that they're so great at, but you can have an art docent come in and be able to pass out supplies, help with setup, help with cleanup, even help with that hands-on. When you have 20 kindergartners all paintbrushes in their hands, it's an all hands on deck situation, so it's a really great time for our volunteers who are so great and working with the arts to help to partner with our teachers as well.
Thanks, you all. I wanted to just touch on a few more things about our docent partnerships because, again, that's been so central to our work. So as we mentioned, we've had 4 docents on our curriculum committee and have been vital in guiding our committee. And I also mentioned we've conducted docent focus groups on a whole range of things. One was just look at the curriculum and give us feedback, or we're trying to puzzle the materials, tell us about how you do it because we might want to try that in our classrooms. To just how can these 2 programs maybe work together and not push each other out. So we've been getting wonderful feedback from that. We also are looking at, in part of this work that we've been doing, is how can we kind of raise the bar for everybody. So as Diva was mentioning, we have some docent programs that are just firing on all cylinders and others that are emerging. And so we heard as we've been working with our docents, wow, wouldn't it be wonderful if there were opportunities for us to get together and share what we have so we can pass on that institutional knowledge, and where we could maybe even learn from some of the expertise in our groups. And so we've been working on coordinating that work in partnerships with the docents to say, hey, we have a space, we can communicate, and if you can get the people, we can work together so that if you have a school that maybe has an emerging docent program, this might be something you could take advantage of. We're also working with the foundation and with some of our docents to develop a docent share site that could be on our webpage where some really the best of the best docent lessons that are really well aligned with our curriculum and standards could be available for people if they want to use them. Not a requirement, but it's a place you can go if you do have that transition of a docent program. It's there and it's available. So it's how do we, as we were saying, if we have schools that have rich docent programs, wouldn't it be great if we could have more and still work together with our curriculum? And it's been a wonderful experience that we've had over the past couple of years and are looking to continue as we move forward. So that takes us to what would be next if we receive a recommendation. So as I mentioned, very materials intensive. So we are looking at materials budgets as well as the supplemental books and the lessons that are available. We want to get those out and available to teachers as soon as possible. The wonderful thing about this curriculum is we can house it all online, so it's always available for teachers to print out and go to at any time. The training resources are available online, and then as we mentioned, the mentor textbooks will be available in buildings as well. And we are working on guides to give our teachers direction and support. So all of those things have to come together, and these are the things that we've learned this year to really make this program successful and work. So these would be things we'd be kind of continuing to attend to over the next few years as we launch this program in our classes, if approved. So that is the end of our presentation. Thank you. And again, thank you to our presenters tonight and all of our teachers on our committee. Can field questions.
It's always a pleasure to see enthusiasts and professionals being enthusiastic about a new tool for teaching. I particularly was disappointed by Deep Space Sparkle being in the black family, not in the purple family. But beyond that, I feel utterly unqualified to comment on this. Your enthusiasm speaks volumes, but if you had asked me for 7 elements of art, I could have given you 2. So I clearly am basically kindergarten level in my art skills. But
and you've been wrong on one of them, probably.
Yeah. This sounds wonderful. I do appreciate your time. I know it takes a lot of time and energy to first define the challenge. I mean, figuring out, do we need a new program? And then figuring out, well, how are we going to figure out what works? I'm very excited to hear from you.
Having a mother who was an art teacher in elementary school, I recognize the terminology. It looks wonderful. Thank you.
So yes, thank you for the process. Having been an art docent, at about 3rd grade, I hit my art level and had to bring in a professional artist because it started shading and there was no way I could do it. But I do greatly appreciate the process that you went through and really looking at how you partner and keep the strength of the art docent and that volunteer component. I think that's a great methodology or even just a practice to really think about how do we utilize that talent within our community and be able to bring that to our students. That's one of the big advantages I think we have. So appreciate your really thinking about that and making sure we maintain that strength going through. So I guess I'd just say kudos. I think it seems like it was very well done. I would love to do your art class personally, and I know my son is probably going to tell me how sad he is he didn't get to do this in elementary school. Because he had to do it elsewhere. We took a class outside so he could learn to draw, because he's an architect. So thank you very much for taking this on and providing it, and making sure that our teachers would feel comfortable doing it. I know I didn't, as I said, when I got to fourth grade, you're beyond my skills, and I could see this just being one more thing that would just be harder to take on. So really working through that and taking the time.
Thanks.
It seems very thoughtful, so appreciate that.
My art abilities perhaps peaked earlier than yours with my blue ribbon in first grade, so that's about it. But I want to thank you all for the work you're doing, in particular with the art. For some students who can reach out through their art and can't through their voice, and you reach them on a level that's very primal, and it's very important. Thank you.
I'll move approval of the recommendation to adopt this curriculum.
Second.
Do we even need to vote? We do? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 You're qualified to vote, Mark. Go ahead.
I said aye.
Oh, okay.
Read my lips.
Okay. So I guess that is that.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you again.
Excellent work.
All right, we're going to...
Yep. Those of you who have to go teach tomorrow morning, run. Next item on our agenda is a public hearing, surplus of district property real estate.
Great. So I would like to draw your attention to tab 13 and the situation recommendation. I'll highlight pieces of that. I know the board has received the materials in advance. So district staff have identified 2 sites which are no longer needed for current or future needs, and it's being recommended that these properties be declared surplus and the staff begin the process to proceed with their sale. State statute requires the board to hold a public hearing prior to adopting that the property is surplus and therefore can be sold. The situation recommendation outlines the public hearing process. We did publish notice of the public hearing consistent with legal requirements, and no comments were received. So this evening would be the public hearing, and the details associated with the properties recommended for surplus and eventual sale are described in depth on page 23 and 24 in your materials. The first property is the Rose Hill property, and the second property is the Bus Satellite property. Without going through all of the details, since it's been in the public materials, and unless the board would like me to read the entire situation recommendation, I will just leave it at that and just draw your attention to the last paragraph that talks about the steps necessary to proceed with the sale required by statute. So you'll notice with the intent to sell real property, the property may not be sold until 45 days following the publication. An appraiser selected by the district must be retained to determine the market value for the properties, and the purchase price must be within 90% of the appraised value, and board approval of the sale and process that has been followed, as well as designating a representative of the district to execute closing documents. So those would be the next steps. The recommendation this evening is that the Board of Directors approves resolution number 2237, and after holding a public hearing as required by the law, the Board of Directors conclude that Rose Hill property and the Falls City Road property, otherwise known as the Bus Satellite property, are no longer required for school purposes, that such properties are surplus, and to authorize the superintendent to proceed with the process for sale of each property.
So the notice was that the public hearing would be tonight?
The public
we are
hearing,
having a public hearing right now.
The public hearing is tonight.
Okay, so we have to initiate the public hearing.
That's correct.
That's right. So the next step is to declare the public hearing open. Would anybody like to come forward and offer evidence for or against the propriety and advisability of the proposed sales? And in short,
please don't push and shove on your way up here.
Yeah, exactly. Both of the properties under consideration have gas pipelines running through them that more or less preclude the construction of schools. Anyway, I was going to say, I don't see anybody rushing the stage, so the public hearing is now closed. Thank you very much. Does the
move
board wish to
approval.
discuss next steps?
I'll move approval of the resolution.
I appreciate the concise discussion.
Well, I'm putting it on the agenda. Then you may have your discussion.
Oh, no. I'm going to call that the discussion. Do you have any discussion you want to have?
I have none.
Anyone else? Hearing none.
I've been waiting a long time to surplus this property.
I know. Let's see. You've moved that we approve the resolution. We got a second. Moved by Director Bernard, seconded by Director Bleasner. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Motion carries. Yay. Last item on our non-consent agenda is monitoring board policy EL7 academic program. Dr. Pierce?
Okay, so if you could turn your attention to tab 14, as the board knows, we typically place executive limitation monitoring reports on consent agenda, and this year we've been doing program reports that connect to all of our ELs. So the only reason we bring ELs onto non-consent is when there's areas of non-compliance. So what I will do is bring your attention to those areas of non-compliance, and specifically for EL7, I also want to highlight a couple of areas that have previously been in partial compliance that are now in full compliance. So first, if you turn to page 10 of 30 in EL7, EL7 1C, there's a note there that explains it is in partial compliance because we continue to shift our current assessment strategy to align to a comprehensive balanced assessment system, including large-scale state assessments, district interim assessments, and classroom curriculum-based formative and summative assessments. So we have components of this full system. We have not been able to fully implement the district interim assessments based on the fact that they have not been available as on the time frame that we thought they would as part of the Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium work. So we have been field testing those assessments. That's being completed now. Professional development for teachers and the use of interim assessments and connections to the summative assessment results is scheduled for fall 2017. So the timeline just got bumped back based on the availability of the assessments, and we do plan to bring this area into full compliance in 17-18. Any question about that before I go on to the next piece? Okay. All right, the next area I want to highlight is on page 20. And this is actually an area that was previously in partial compliance that we now have brought into compliance. So the note at the bottom of page 20 says that this portion is now in compliance because the processes for tracking how we define safety net and count enrollment has been systematized. So previously, our lack of a system for tracking was the area that we highlighted as why this particular component, or one of the reasons why this particular component was out of compliance. We've now addressed that and brought this area into compliance. The other part of 2B is highlighted on page 32. So there's another area that was bringing this component previously into partial compliance that we've now addressed, and that's resulted in number 2 here being marked in compliance, and that's we've now implemented all of the highly capable program findings identified in the OSPI consolidated review. So previously we hadn't implemented those items. They're now fully implemented, and therefore this area is now in compliance. Any question about those two aspects before I go on to the next portion?
I'll save a question to the very end. It'll make more sense.
Okay.
And actually, because it makes sense here, bringing the highly capable program into compliance following the review, we've just had a review on SPED that hasn't been fully implemented. So is that component considered to be?
I hear your question. I'm just pondering for a moment. So the section that we had marked this area specifically out of compliance because the OSPI, there were requirements that had to be implemented as part of the highly capable program that were not in that were not being implemented.
Right, exactly. So we didn't have
compliance.
kindergarten.
So sort of the difference is when we do our internal program reviews, if there were areas that were out of compliance based on the WISM portion of special education or the compliance portion.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm hearing what you mean.
Not to say that just because an area is marked in compliance doesn't mean we're continuing to work on it. Typically, it's marked in partial compliance or not in compliance. For example, when we get to PE in just a moment, elementary PE, the area of EL7 that's perpetually out of compliance, it's because we're not implementing what the WAC says we're supposed to when it comes to elementary PE.
60 minutes, right. Okay.
Since he asked the question, I'll just expand. When I was reading through that, 7.2 really sort of speaks to equity and opportunity. And this is sort of the opportunity component in the sense of what are those opportunities we're providing for our students, those who might not be at standard, those who are above. In this section, when I read through it, I guess I would say based on some of the work we've been doing in speaking about equity and some of the disaggregation of that data, when I look at that, I'm not convinced we meet the needs of all our students through the outcomes we've seen. And so I think there's still another level in looking at this as we go through to really think about how are we looking at this in regards to who has access, how successful is it, and those components. Whereas it might exist, is it succeeding at meeting the needs of all students? And I guess that's a piece as I was reading through these with that lens that I started to question if it was completely in compliance. That yes, it's there, but we're not seeing the outcomes that we should. Is safety net being effective? Are our students getting out and at standard? Is it different amongst different needs, and do we have to target? So I guess that was my thought as I went through this in considering compliance.
It's interesting because the work that the board did at the extended study session in March in terms of the ERs and the outcomes for students, and how does the board determine, moving forward as we revamp that system, whether we're making adequate progress. So what I'm pondering is what we haven't yet had the opportunity to talk about, is how do we potentially refine the EL monitoring to better align with the new way beginning next year that the board will be ER monitoring. So as since we're talking about ends and means, we've made refinements to ends and not yet connected the means part to the ends. I think there's an opportunity to do that moving forward. What I can assure the board, and I think you've seen this in the work that we're doing, just because, and I'm not saying there's not a disconnect, but just because something's in compliance, according to the EL in terms of, it's almost like meeting the minimum requirement, for lack of a better word, right? Because remember, the old structures, the superintendent won't fail to do X, Y, Z, right? There's lots of work that we're doing in the equity arena and looking at, and we'll continue to do, and the next linkage coming up is an equity-focused linkage on May 22nd. But the work that we're continuing to do around closing achievement and opportunity gaps is work that is extremely important, and that we're continuing to do and focus on sort of regardless of the compliance report of EL7.
Absolutely, but what I would like to then suggest at some point, and this might be for a future, and I completely see that, is the piece of that we want to be reviewing these ELs, and this one specifically, I honestly think, because it's such the crux of so much of what it means and how we need to structure this in order to be able to look at this also from an equity side and really paying attention, especially when I look at choice options. I think there's some clear data points that are missing here that we might want to be looking at. When I look at who has access, who doesn't, what are those barriers, what are those different things, I think that all plays out here, which will impact the long run. So I do think that's a place we want to look at.
Mm-hmm. And if I can just chime in, I agree that it seems like EL7 is the place to start. It's the...
Agreed.
It's the meat.
Yeah, and it would be great to have that, for the board to have that same conversation about what data. Mm-hmm. So there's not now you've completed the work of here are the data points that you agreed to for the ERs. We've never had, right, here's what the data points are for EL7. It's been not, right.
And
so that, I think that would be wonderful.
Exactly. And between, I'm on the same page. I mean, it's something where the satisfying the limitations is one thing. Success is a different metric, and it's something where figuring out how to monitor this EL is something that I think is part of our most important work for the coming year.
So that could be the future agenda item when it gets done, whatever. I would just like to make sure that we put that in and build that in, ideally before this comes up again.
As we continue the work to put together work plan of the board for next year, I would suggest a study session and one of the longer study sessions earlier on to really dig deeply into it.
So that was sort of my big question on 7.2 was that piece, because knowing the board priorities that we spoke about at the board retreat with equity and opportunity, this really sort of fit the opportunity component pretty heavily.
Okay.
So just the two last pieces then to highlight. If you turn to page 35 and 36, you'll see 7.3 is in partial compliance because we have not fully developed and implemented the parent and student data views as part of our overall continuous improvement process efforts. A concrete plan for bringing it into full compliance is yet to be established because there are a lot of technology backbone implications. And so as we, our first priority was the public-facing website work and building a foundation, a technology foundation that will enable us to do some of these things. So that's why it's just not all on a concrete timeline yet. And then, of course, you're very aware of 7.5 that's in partial compliance because the WAC requires K-6 students receive an average of 100 minutes per week of instruction in PE, and currently our K-5 students receive an average of 60 minutes per week. And at this point, we don't have a plan to bring it into compliance.
When we're looking at that, bringing that into compliance, I would really like to make sure that we also look at the adaptive PE to make sure that we're in compliance with those kids, especially considering the fact that adaptive PE is not available even if their IEP is asked for in middle school and high school.
I wouldn't wait. Adaptive PE is important. We're not going to get to the 100 minutes until there's some significant changes. So we need to look into adaptive PE before.
Well, I wonder why we haven't been looking at period, but that's beside the point.
And if you remember when we did the program report for physical education, there was a portion of that said, here's what we have in place for adaptive PE, and here's where we have some work to do. Does the board remember that? It was one of the program presentations, and I'm trying to remember. It's been a couple of months now, so it wasn't just last month. But so we do have work going on the adaptive PE side of things. We don't have a plan to bring this into compliance to meet the 100 minutes, which was Nancy's point, and they're not related. And I can do a follow-up in terms of where we are with the adaptive PE, if that would be helpful.
I think that would be appropriate.
Okay.
Yeah, because waiting
Especially
for 100.
beyond elementary.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you can ask for it in middle school, but you can't get anybody to write it in.
So any further discussion on EL7?
I just have one quick question. When I was reading it preschool, it commented that there is an unmet need for preschool in our area. Knowing where early learning is and the importance behind it, and as we work towards equity and ensuring all kids are able to succeed coming into our schools is by far one of those strength points. So my question is, are we looking at it? Is it something we could look at? Is it an opportunity for, I mean, I just know there's different
All we
places.
need is money and space.
Okay, but although what I would say is, I think there's a combination of also being able to look at partnerships and those components, and is there a way in which, so I'm asking, what is that unmet need? Because when I don't know it, so I can't speak to it.
What's the scale you mean?
Yeah, are we talking 100 kids or are we talking 500 kids?
Money and how much space? So we had a parameter
So
on that, maybe?
you're referring to the
Our preschool programs are always oversubscribed. Aside
because
from,
actually, I just want to make sure I'm tracking with what you're pointing out. So on page 22 of 38, is that where you're looking?
Wherever we talked about preschool, sorry,
Okay.
I don't have the
So
page number down.
it's okay. In the EL itself, we on page 22 of 38, it actually starts on page 21. We describe the different kinds of preschools we have: Ready Start, SNAPS, and Head Start, and how that all works. And then our overall, there's a highlight here that says the overall enrollment capacity is relatively flat over the several years due to space and funding limitations. So when you're saying the unmet need, I'm asking for clarification if there was something in the EL specifically.
I thought I had read in there that had said that there were a wait
and there
list
could be.
or
I want to
need
make
for
sure. This is a big EL, so I want to make sure I'm.
I think you've got the language that most closely jives with unmet need, that the overall enrollments in both Ready Start and Head Start continue to be limited by spaceability and funding limitations. I don't know that we're turning away kids in Head Start.
That's what my question is. Are there students who could utilize our services that we're not able to serve? Okay. And if so,
how do we,
if it's not us, can we leverage, can we advocate, can we do something to help strengthen that and do that? I think, the city of Seattle has done some approaches. I think there are partnership opportunities. And we know that coming in, we can look at walk kids, at least for our incoming kindergartners, so we know what our preschool program and what accomplishes, so that would be good to know. I guess research shows that that's such a key starting point, that if we're going to hit the targets we want, I guess that was my one thought as I looked at it. And that's not really has anything to do with this EL, honestly. It was just a thought that came out.
And why don't I do a little follow up on data, and also some of the work that we're doing connected with WA Kids around partnerships with area preschools, because part of that work is connecting the district to area preschools so they better understand what students are being assessed, how they're being assessed through WA Kids, so they can make potential improvements to their program to better align with the whole, the whole readiness factor piece. So like we had talked about in the past, and we actually talked about this in the context of ER, does that data give us data about our own programs or data about other people's programs, or both? But anyway, so there's some follow-up I can do around some of the work on preschool. Right now, I think that would be a larger board conversation in terms of priorities and so forth.
Absolutely.
Beyond that. So let me just follow up with a sort of current status report beyond what's in here.
I'm just, if we're talking 5 kids or 50 or 1,000.
There was a time we used 728 money to do more targeted preschool for at-risk kids, and then we lost the money and that program got scaled back. I guess it's time for me to be reminded, as you look at this, where we are. I know surrounding districts, it's becoming in vogue now to build preschool centers some of the schools, districts, were remodeling Redmond L for preschool. So
Old Redmond Schoolhouse.
Old Redmond Schoolhouse, sorry. Anyway, I would be interested in knowing where we are in terms of kids that, if there's that gap that's been established since we started to lose the 728 money.
And that's really the Ready Start part of our preschool programs, and so we continue to provide Ready Start, and so we've got special education preschool students, Head Start, and then Ready Start is for that next kind of level of students who could benefit from preschool who aren't qualifying through Head Start. So that's a locally funded priority program that's continued even though the state funding avenues have changed. So we still have Ready Start.
Right.
Okay, so if you'll include that report. I was under the impression we had to cut it back, but maybe not.
And this was partially as I was listening to the presentation on Frost, where he commented that they had incoming students who had no preschool and were English. So that was just a thought of, what is that need?
Yeah.
And is that another way?
Okay. So our next item on the agenda is a program report and accelerated programs.
So I'm just going to ask the board's preference on how, just looking at the time and
appreciate
sensitivity
that. I was going to ask you the same thing.
So I wanted to let
Do
you
we
know
do
a
the
couple of
SUPES
things
report,
and then
or-
have you decide. So there's two program reports that are about 10 minutes each, and superintendent's report that's another 10 minutes. So a couple of options. So next board meeting on May 22nd is a consent-only meeting that we actually have to modify so we can bring you the math adoption recommendation. So our thinking is we would add one non-consent item to that board meeting, and it would, still probably fit into that. We have a linkage at 6:30, so we want to keep that time, but if the board meeting started right at 5:30 and we had 45 minutes, we could probably move one or both of the program reports over to that meeting as well and do the two program reports and the math adoption in 45 minutes, be done with the meeting, no other items, right, other than consent. We could be done with that meeting, I think, by 6:15. That would still give you 15 minutes between the end of the meeting and the beginning of the linkage session.
I like that
Which
model.
starts at 6:30. So tonight we could just do superintendent's report and get sort of back on schedule-ish.
Yeah, we're a little
for
off
this evening.
schedule, but for a good reason. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. Anyway, I'm
Do you like that
highly
idea?
sympathetic to this plan. So
Looking at
Great.
math at 45 minutes at the next meeting will, good, okay.
we promise not to be
Okay,
too
so-
interruptive.
So we do have a facilities update. As you know, we want to continue to communicate about our 2016 bond projects and the progress that's being made. So the community knows that those investments are being well managed, and I'm just putting words in while they get the presentation up here. But we are communicating about it, and exactly. And so that's why we've built in a number of facilities updates as superintendent reports to our board meetings this year. So Barbara is going to take the lead.
Take the reins from Janine tonight.
Yes,
so,
we're doing a little transition here,
So,
and letting
anyway.
Barbara take the lead here.
All right. Well, thank you. I am, as Tracy mentioned, update to the facilities. We had the last update was in March. So I'll go over our 2016 bond projects. We have 8 projects throughout the district. Our Juanita High project. All of our details on all our projects are on the website. So Juanita High, some accomplishments. We're in design development at Juanita High right now. Upcoming things going on. We have the groundbreaking ceremony next month at the beginning of June, and we have a Good Neighbor meeting June 23rd. And this summer we will be doing the initial demolition and installation of portables. updated picture. Our next project is Explorer Community. We are in construction documents and permitting, and upcoming work is the groundbreaking ceremony is in June. We don't have a specific date for that. And then this summer will be the old portables being demolished, and this new school will open in September of 2017. Another updated picture. And then our next project is our North Redmond Elementary School. And we're in the construction phase of that project. A groundbreaking ceremony is scheduled for the end of May 24th. And then we have lots of other milestones going on. Updated picture. The second new elementary school in Redmond Ridge East. We had a Good Neighbor meeting last March. We're having the groundbreaking ceremony June 16th. And then we will begin the site work and in the summer. So, and then our new middle school in Redmond Ridge. And we're in the construction phase of the development. We had a Good Neighbor meeting in March, at the end of March, and site work begins in May. We will have a groundbreaking ceremony in mid-June, and they will complete the foundation with the goal of completing the foundations in September. Another updated picture. And then the next project is Kirk Elementary. We're in the schematic design phase of this project. We have a construction advisory committee in June and a second community meeting scheduled in June. The next project is Mead Elementary, and we're in the design phase of that project also. Similar schedule to Kirk. We're having a construction advisory meeting in June and a community meeting at the beginning of June. And then our last project is Old Redmond Schoolhouse. We're in project development right now, working on the schematic design, and we are continuing to work with the city of Redmond on community partnership opportunities. So in continuing just the work with our Building on Success campaign, we are doing a lot of communication around these projects, and so I wanted to highlight some of the accomplishments and then upcoming activities. We are continuing to provide press releases and emails and posting on our website about all the meetings that are going on. Each of those meetings we have information handouts, display boards, and information about our web. We continue to hold Good Neighbor meetings at all our related to all our projects. We are doing videos on our projects. We had a video on the advisory committee and then the Kirk and Mead input teams. And we also have a Let's Talk where you can have provide input for the community. So upcoming communication, there will be a bond progress mailer sent to all households in June and then again in October. We've put together, or will be putting together a frequently asked questions document, and we will continue to take pictures and put videos on our website so the community can get updates as they want to. And then we will continue to have presentations to community groups. More information is on our web. You can sign up to receive email updates about the bond, and you can also use the Let's Talk button that's on the right there to ask questions about the projects. Okay, and then this time I want to talk a little bit about our levy projects. Our 2014 capital projects levy that the voters approved in 2014. This highlights the type of projects that we're working on, building systems improvements, school and program improvements, code, health and safety, and site improvements. These are the projects funded by that levy. Some examples of completed projects to date. I won't read all those, but those are some examples of what we've done. We are in the our capital projects levies are renewed every 4 years, so we are in the planning right now for the renewal for the 2018 levy. And so we've been soliciting feedback from the community. We put out a survey. That survey was, an article for that survey was in Connections and in Focus. So, Catherine, when has the survey closed? Still open, so that's what we're working on right now. And that's the end of my report.
So I just want to quickly summarize, because Barbara, nice job on doing that very efficiently.
Did you time me?
What you, as you
I got to stretch it out next time.
No, it's great. We're committed to transparency of processes, clarity of information, providing updates along the way, ensuring that all information is available on the website, and also pushing the information out to people and engaging the community along the way. As you heard, we've got a lot of projects going on. As you all know, I want to bless you, compliment Forrest, who's here, and his team for the amazing job they're doing managing all of the projects that we have in play, as well as Catherine and Patty in communications for all of the enhanced communications that and community engagement that is happening as well. So we've got a lot of people putting in a tremendous amount of effort to ensure that community has the information and is involved throughout the entire process. So thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Barbara.
Yeah. Thank you.
Man, okay, sorry. So if that's the SOUPS report, thank you, Dr. Pierce. That brings us to the legislative update. Mark, do you have a brief ledge update?
Very brief, very brief. The special session continues. They were able to address some overwhelming issues this last week. The approval of allowing sunblock to be applied by a student on a field trip. It really made a difference on what the overall budget will be, I'm sure. That said, some of the stumbling blocks currently are not only the fact that you have the House versus the Senate versions of how to finance, but there's also a discussion, too, that's going on as to testing requirements, and the idea of whether or not to do away with testing requirements. Do they actually represent the student learning, or are they really there to judge the effectiveness of that school district? And as you're looking for more freedom, it's always difficult to take away an ability to show what your progress is. The trouble is, the question is really whether or not those tests adequately describe the progress of the student and or the school system. So that's yet to be decided. I did participate in a visit to Olympia with the Washington Paramount Duty folks about 3 weeks ago, I guess now, and they were needing folks from the 45th district. I fit the bill, so I volunteered for them, and we met with Senator Rossi. The meeting was brief, but it ended up being more productive in the following week, so stay tuned for that. And we will be meeting with Congressman Del Bene this week, I believe, on Wednesday, Thursday, one of those days. Point being, we're also organizing some other outreach to the state legislature to keep them informed as to what the impact will be on Lake Washington students specifically, regardless whether it's the Democratic House bill or the Republican Senate bill.
Thank you. Which brings us to board follow-up. Any follow-up from last time? Okay. Future agenda items. I think we've got the discussion of figuring out how to do EL7, so that's cool.
Okay, hang on.
Yep.
I do have future agenda items. I'm assuming the ends results, and that will come back at some point as to what that draft will be, and we'll be going forward with that.
Right.
Linkage in May is set up. Do we have a plan? I guess I haven't seen what will that be coming forward as to, okay.
Do you want me to address it now, or do you want me
It can be in a
No, it's a
brief. That's
follow-up.
fine. It can be
That's fine,
followed
yeah.
up. No, I'm not Board of Distinction will be coming open in June. I'd like to be able to see how we get that at least built into the work session for like 10, 15 minutes so we can cover some of the indicators quickly and then be able to write it up. And that won't be due until September, but it sort of needs to get built in now.
Okay.
Probably.
It fits with something else. It's not big enough to be a study session by itself.
Tacking on for 15 minutes is all it would need. It could be a quick touch. Basically, it's to bullet point out the ideas, and it just needs to be written up.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty straightforward sort of thing.
Timeline?
It'll be due in the end of September.
So when would you want that?
Ideally, I'd like to touch on it. There's 4 of them that have to get done. So one of those each month between now and then would be awesome.
So a 15-minute
slot
for each one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, between now and, I'm trying to make sure I got it
End
down.
of September.
Now and end of September?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Actually, no. It would have to be the end of August.
All right. Agenda items, debrief or board member comments. I'm lumping those two.
I would like to follow up on the board retreat and the work that we did there on the top 3 priorities, and just know how will we be incorporating that? I guess I'm sort of at okay, we had this great discussion. I'm looking for where the plan of action is that comes out of it and what our next steps are.
That's a good question.
So I would like to have one, I guess.
Yes.
So I'm not sure how we want to build that in, so we make sure that activity goes forward and we're clear with it.
All right. Well, so our next board meeting is May 22nd at 5:30 here. It's a short meeting, so it won't be a no public comment period. We will be covering the items that we punted from today to that one in the interest of getting a little bit of sleep. Followed by a study session, a linkage session with the district equity team, which will be, actually, I think, dovetails nicely with what you just mentioned.
And just because it's written as, I just didn't catch it here. I think I caught it on a different document. But really, the topic should just be equity versus, so the linkage is not with the district equity team. So let me just take 3 minutes and explain process and maybe address some of those.
Yep.
So we put out the call for people to apply, both staff and parents, community members to apply for the district equity team. We did 2 calls out and then closed the application May 1st. We've got quite a bit of interest, which is wonderful. We have approximately, just on the community parent side, about 50 applicants. So what I think the best next step would be to invite everybody who applied, parents, community, to participate in the linkage and run it very similar to how we did the linkage with parents of students with IEPs, where each board member had and we had board member and staff paired together to do some listening. It's really a listening-focused session with members of a group. So it would be about 10 people per group. That way we can get, while everybody won't be able to serve on the team because it's just too many people, and that's just the parent community interest. We also have staff and district leadership team, so we need to do a little more work to determine the right size of the equity team to make sure that it's a kind of functioning committee that can move forward, and also ensure that we've got a good representation from everywhere. So, but I think that be able to do the linkage session with everybody who applied would be great. So that is the plan, and then I've got we can talk more about particular questions or things that you want to hear, as we sort of like we did with the previous linkage, where there were some specific prompts and questions that were posed, and then opportunity for lots of talking from the group and lots of listening from the board. Sound good?
Just so we're not overwhelmed, or you don't feel overwhelmed with the numbers that you're looking at, keep in mind the last linkage week had similar numbers signed up, and things happened. And actually, the folks that showed up, it was a much more manageable number, and it worked very well. So,
yeah. I mean, the linkage session, I think you were saying, is we're not going to trim the field. It's the future meetings of this team.
But I think what Mark's saying is it's very possible, like if we get the invitations out this week
I agree.
to every community member parent who said they'd like to be considered to serve on the team, then the maximum amount we would have for the linkage would be 50 people and participating.
Yeah.
10 at each group, and there's a likelihood that some people won't just be able to attend, or
right.
So
and some people
it
can
might
only
be
attend
small.
for a certain part, and they'll tag team out.
Right. But everyone will be invited who applied.
Knowing that we've just done a process with Puget Sound ESD and some of that in those focus groups, would there be any access to that information prior to this that we can have?
We won't have it prior
Okay.
to this. What we will have is, we'll be able to set the stage and do sort of a short presentation at the beginning with some data and talk about the process that I mentioned earlier, the student focus groups, that sort of student voice piece, and the qualitative data. And then I actually see that the listening session that the board does on the 22nd is another data point. All of these data points then go to the equity team for consideration, planning, prioritization, sort of helping to develop that plan. So we won't have that data prior to the linkage session. They're still working on kind of collating that data and putting it all in a digestible form for us.
But there's nothing preliminary we could get from them at all.
I will double check. If there is, we'll certainly share it. I just don't think we will, but I can double check. Thank you.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of our agenda. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
We have one last item, I think.
Are you sure?
Yeah. We need to welcome one of our newest future students.
Do we make that announcement?
I don't know if anybody has asked.
Okay.
So I don't.
Never mind.
I don't.
Sorry, I was dodging that for the moment, being coy. But yes.
I'll move adjournment.
Probably check first,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. When he does come back. All right. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I just
So
did it.
moved.
Okay.
Oh, second.
Moved by Director Bernard, seconded by Director Bleasner. All those in favor, aye.
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 All those opposed, hearing none, motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.